Okay, so here we are on the what is it, the fourth part or something like that of this whole explanation thing. Basically, where we're at now is we're in Substance Painter, and the reason why I'm using Substance Painter for this portion of it is baking that high poly detail into the low poly object is because it's a hell of a lot more simpler in here than it is in Blender. You can also do this in Blender, but I've noticed that even when I follow my cheat sheet to do that stuff, it's hit or miss. Sometimes it works the first time out. Sometimes it takes me 6 times of just basically, I don't know, changing stupid settings that shouldn't need to be changed. And it's a lot more difficult than it should be. So what I did is I went ahead and purchased Substance Painter, the whole package thing. If you're thinking about getting into any of this stuff as a hobby or even in production wise, Substance Painter, their package, their Substance Live package that comes with Substance Designer, Substance Painter, and Bitmap 2 material is an awesome buy. For people who are just independent like me and who do this as a hobby, they have a really cheap version of it. But if you make over, what is it? Is that 100,000? I think it's $100,000 a year of income from doing stuff like this. Then they want you to buy the professional version. But since I do this stuff as a hobby and I haven't really sold anything to anybody at any time coming out of this stuff, it's a lot cheaper. So I think it's what is it? It's over $200 or so cheaper. I think each professional level, each one of them is about $590, but I got all three of them for, I think it was like $300 or something like that, and they have a really cool payment plan, so you don't have to come up with it right away. You can pause your payments and all that other stuff. I really think you should check that out. Just search for it if you're interested in it. But this is where we're going to do that baking. It's going to be really short. So basically, I'm going to tell this thing that I'm going to do this new project, and I select a mesh that I'm going to be doing it in, and I don't need this much resolution. This is the image map resolution. I usually choose 512. I may not need that. That means it's 512 by 512 is the map pixels. You can also do 2K and 4K maps. I don't really need something like that for something this small. I probably don't even need a 512, but to keep some of the details in the resolution, I'll choose it. OpenGL, just because I'm using an OpenGL app. DirectX for games, stuff like that can be chosen here. We'll go ahead and select our stuff, and I put it in a temp file, which is right there. And we're taking the low resolution, the retopo, and we're bringing that in here. And so you can see the preview over here of the object, which is pretty rough. I know that's kind of distracting sometimes to see the environment. But this is the object that we have here, and this is the UV map that we made, and this is just projecting just a basic material. So I don't need a base color, and I don't need any roughness or metallic. We won't get into any of that stuff. But what I am going to do is I'm going to bake a texture, and I am going to bake a normal map, and I had to change all these things. So what is a normal map? Basically, a normal map is defining the height and the depth of certain features in your object. We used to use things called bump maps. Now they're called height maps. Like I said, things change their names throughout time and usages and stuff like that. And it defines the roughness of a surface without actually modeling all that roughness. So remember all those different polygons that we had defining that surface to define the roughness of it. I don't want all that because it's heavy. And so I can use this low resolution mesh, and I can take the high resolution stuff, and what it does is it projects by shooting rays off of that thing onto the other surface, and it reads all those surface irregularities and it puts it into a map. And that map is called the normal map. And the normal map doesn't mean that it's not abnormal. What it means is that it basically comes from physics. I actually had to take physics to learn what normal meant. I'm pretty sure it's in geometry as well, or trigonometry. It's basically a line that is perpendicular to a surface. That's it. It's called the normal. So it's basically trying to figure out how high or how low along that line a surface feature is. Puts it into this funky purple colored looking map, and then we can project that map back onto our UV that we just did, and it gives it all that detail. So I'm telling it just to bake the normal. I'm going to pick a high definition mesh, which is that high polygon object right there. We're going to open it. It never opens. It stays in the background. It's just for calculation purposes. And we tell it to bake. Baking normal, finished. Look at all that surface detail that popped up. You see how that surface detail came out of just that surfacing right there? And you can see how it's all kind of wrinkled now and has all that detail that I didn't have in it before. That's exactly what I want. Okay? There's a little problem. Oh, it looks like there's a little problem right about there. And I'm not sure why. But we're going to try to figure that out. There's some seams in there, like I said. But we're going to try to fix that and get rid of that problem there. And we can do that in Blender if we need to. But I see what the problem is. It's right there. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back in to 3D Coat with this thing, and then I'm going to re-export it, and then we're going to rebake it, and try to get rid of these, because what happened, and I didn't really see it on the map, I saw it but I didn't know what it was telling me, is that this part is kind of overlapping another part. So we're going to fix that, and let's see if we can do that really quick. And I'm gonna get some edge loops here. And see how it's overlapped? It looks like a folded piece of paper over top of one another. When I do that, and I just add in one seam, and this one too, one seam. Okay, we got rid of that, and so basically I'm going to export that mesh again, and it's going to go into here, and yes, I want to replace it, and then I'm going to pop back into here, and we're going to discard that. Select the C3, going to open that. Oops. It helps if you tell this to unwrap it. There. And then if I have made any changes, we're just going to update that anyway. And then we're going to export that thing. See, like I said, I don't use this too often, but we're going to go ahead and save that. Go back into here. Now everything's a little bit different. I need the height map. Don't need any of that. We're going to bake this. Turn off all those. Bring in my high poly object, open that, bake the texture, so now it's a little bit smoother. Okay, so the baking is finished. Go in here, going to export all channels. I'm going to tell it to export it to my little project over here, and since we're dealing with the spine, it's going to go in here and in the texture maps. Select that folder, and we're going to export all that. It's going to tell me it's all done. I'm going to import that, and I'll show you what that looks like. And that's one of these things here. That looks a little funky. I always like to rename it. Get rid of that. And it uses that height map as something general. And what that map looks like is that. Okay, so that's all the stuff. As you can see here, it's all the little wrinkly stuff, the ridges and stuff like that. It's in there. That's basically what we baked out. That's all the detail. Okay, it's all the detail that we need for everything. So we're done with the baking part. We have our maps. We have our maps in our nice little area here. And so we're pretty much done with that part. So now what we need to do is we need to get into surfacing, and we'll do that in Lightwave. Provided there isn't any problems with the mesh. So Lightwave is pretty much destructive. If you had to change the mesh, it's destructive of the UV map, and that's why I use Blender a lot. That's why I use 3D Coat, because Lightwave just destroys all that stuff. So we'll go into Lightwave next, and we'll show how we set up the surfaces.